Good evening, Nghi, and welcome to your IELTS writing class. This is lesson number 10. So we are halfway through our program, and I just graded your mid-course writing. So overall, you've made a lot of progress for your writing, with your writing. So for example, you've improved on the accuracy of your vocabulary and grammar, especially vocabulary is very advanced. And grammar is also varied. So your writing is much better compared to the beginning of the course. And you also know how to approach the IELTS writing, both tasks, but task 1 and task 2, with correct paragraphing and development of ideas. So well done. So your range is around 7.5 to 8. And what you could do more is to make your ideas more complex. What I mean here is to provide deeper argument and examples in your writing so that they are more persuasive or more informative. Okay, so please have a look in the feedback, and I have sent also band 9 samples for you to practice and move towards that higher band score. All right, Nghi, so congratulations with your mid-course writing. Yeah, so our task here is to read more good samples and learn more from the higher band scores so we can reach even higher. Okay, all right. So now for lesson 10 today, we learn a new unit, unit 5, history. Let's see. Okay, so let's have a look at the content of the new unit. So unit 5, history and writing. Can you please read the content of this unit? In this unit, you will learn how to
describe information in a table or bar chart. Use linkers and cohesive language to improve your coherence and cohesion score for task 1. Avoid repetition of language to improve your coherence and cohesion score for task 1.
Thank you very much. So pronunciation-wise, remember, repeat is the verb. However, when it's turned into the noun, you must say repetition. Can you say that again? Repetition.
Repetition.
That's right. Remember, repeat, but repetition. Okay, so that's the content of Unit 1. Sorry, Unit 5, writing. We learned how to describe tables or bar charts, and we learn linkers or cohesive language to improve coherence and cohesion and avoid repetition of language, to improve CC, coherence and cohesion. So that's the main focus of Unit 5 writing, table and bar chart description, and coherence and cohesion. Okay, so the topic is history. Let's talk about manufacturing. Manufacturing and the history of manufacturing. Okay, so what goods are manufactured in your country? So in Vietnam, what do you think, Nghi?
I think there's a lot of goods are manufactured in our country.
Can you give some examples?
I don't really understand what is manufacture mean. Does it mean like produce?
That's right. So manufactured is to be produced in a factory using machines.
Or there are, in my opinion, there are like many goods are manufactured in Vietnam. Like, for example, like cars, VinFast, phones, VinPhones are, uh, I, mm, I guess I don't think of anything else.
Okay, so if you can't think of anything, you can just make up some common sense, some examples that might sound like common sense. So for example, Vietnam is a developing countries and we are able to manufacture a wide range of goods. So for example, from the transportation means of transportation, like we can manufacture cars and motorbikes, to electronic gadgets like smartphones and TVs, and we can also manufacture a lot of clothing items. So for example, we have even manufacture clothes and fashion items to be exported to other countries. Yeah, so you can make it up. Yeah, don't worry about okay, if this is a speaking test, okay, so don't let your background knowledge affect your speaking. Okay, don't let your background knowledge affect your speaking, and just make up some examples that sounds like common sense. That's number one. Number two, if you really don't know and you really want to learn, okay, you can use ChatGPT to learn. Okay, so today we talk about goods and manufacturing in Vietnam. So we find out that our background knowledge is lacking in this area. That's why we need to learn. Okay, so I will help you by using ChatGPT. Okay, as a candidate from Vietnam, answer these IELTS questions. Okay, so you set the background, the requirement for the answer, and you paste the questions in. Okay, so now, number one, if in the test room you are asked this question, what goods are manufactured in your country? So my advice to you is don't let your background knowledge, don't let your lack of knowledge of something affect your performance. The IELTS speaking is testing your ability to speak. So you should just speak. Use some vocabulary words of common goods that are manufactured in a country to answer the question. So that is a strategy in the test room. Use whatever vocabulary you have of goods manufactured in a country to put that as examples for your answer. Okay? But the other way and the other method I advise you to do is what we are doing right now. Practice before the test day. And if you have a question and you feel that you don't have knowledge about that question, please use ChatGPT and generate answer and learn from that. Okay, and any information you find suspicious or incorrect, you can double check that on Google or other websites like Wiktionary or Wikipedia. Ok, đó thì Nghi nhớ cho cô nhé. Như vậy là cô chia sẻ với Nghi hai chiến lược. Đấy chính là nếu chúng ta ở trong phòng thi ạ, và chúng ta được hỏi như là câu số 1 này, thì chúng ta đừng để cái background knowledge của chúng ta mình còn thiếu cái khía cạnh này, đúng không ạ? Thì đừng để nó ảnh hưởng đến việc chúng ta trả lời. Và cô tin chắc là Nghi có rất là nhiều từ vựng để mà nói về các loại hàng hóa, đúng không ạ? Đó, như cô thấy ban nãy là clothing, the fashion, và đây là textiles, the garments. Đó, rồi smartphones, components, vân vân, rất là nhiều thứ. Thì Nghi có thể là ngay lúc đấy là động não ra, nghĩ ra một số các cái vocabulary items, các cái từ vựng liên quan đến goods manufactured in a country, và sau đó mình cứ đáp vào câu trả lời của chúng ta thôi ạ. Đó, thế còn nhá, đấy cô nhắc lại, về mặt đường dài chúng ta bắt buộc là phải bổ sung vốn từ, và từ đó là cái vốn kiến thức của chúng ta, để là không những là làm bài tốt trong bài thi IELTS speaking, writing và listening, reading, mà mình còn về sau mình trao đổi với thầy cô, bạn bè, đồng nghiệp, chúng ta cũng có những cái vốn kiến thức rộng để chúng ta có thể trao đổi với mọi người. Ok, thế bây giờ chúng ta sẽ có một cái công cụ đấy là ChatGPT để mình mở rộng vốn kiến thức nhé. Ok, thì cô xin mời Nghi sẽ nhập vai là thí sinh nhé. So what goods are manufactured in your country?
Well, Vietnam produces a wide range of goods, but the most significant manufactured products are textiles and garments, electronics like smartphones and components, as well as footwear. In addition, we also have factories producing furniture, processed food, and even automobiles on a smaller scale. These industries play a crucial role in our economy, especially in terms of employment and export revenue.
Good job. Okay, so remember the third form of the singular verb here. Can you say it again? Produces.
Produces.
That's right. Remember, with es ending, you must pronounce it another syllable. Thì con nhớ cho cô nhé, pronunciation of es endings. Đó, thì khi mà động từ hoặc là danh từ số nhiều đấy ạ, kết thúc bằng cái âm suýt z, ch, sh, j, thì khi đó s hoặc es chúng ta bật thêm một âm tiết là is, race, races, bus, buses, box, boxes, prize, prizes, kiss, kisses, watch, watches, dish, dishes, change, changes. Còn các cái âm s còn lại h, k, t, f, vân vân, hoặc là b, d, g, l, vân vân. Đó thì các âm đó thì chúng ta cứ phát âm cho nó thuận thôi, không cần quá phân biệt lúc nào là S, lúc nào là Z, nhưng quan trọng nhất là các âm is mình phải phát âm rõ ra cho cô nhé. Vì thế chúng ta sẽ có là produces. Vietnam produces a wide range of goods. Okay, so there you go. From this answer, you know that there is textiles, garments, so clothing items and fashion. Yeah. Okay, electronics like smartphones and components. So components are part of something like part of a computer, yeah, part of a machine, as well as footwear. So we have Bata, Vietnamese have Bata BTS, right? So very famous company for footwear in Vietnam. Now textiles and garments, we have M2, we have Vinatex, we have IV Moda, so from the the lower level shops to the very luxurious brands. Yeah, electronics, we have Samsung, we can manufacture Samsung cell phones in Vietnam. And like you said, Vin phones, right? Okay, and components, so parts of machines and so on. We have factories producing furniture. Yes, we have Vietnamese furniture and processed food like canned food and those noodles and so on. Yeah, so processed food, those are things that produced in a manufactured in a factory. Yeah, and automobiles like cars, and you said VinFast cars, right? So a lot of things, and these industries all play a crucial role in our economy. Can you say this one again? Economy.
Economy.
That's right. The stress is on the second syllable, economy, especially in terms of employment and export revenue. So the industry create jobs. Yeah, so they play a crucial role in our economy in terms of employment. So they create jobs and they create export revenue. So we have money, we earn money from exporting the items, the goods. All right, so is that better for you now? Do you understand this topic better?
Yes, I do.
If there's anything unclear, please tell me and we will check together. Okay, so from reading sample answers like this, we learn more about aspects in societies, about things in societies. Okay, so let's see. Let's try number 2. Do you think manufacturing is increasing or decreasing?
Can I answer it myself? I want to practice.
Sure, if you want to.
I think that manufacturing in Vietnam is rising because many international companies are investing in our country because of the low labor cost and trade policies. For example, like Samsung or like VinFast company, there this has created like more jobs and for local industries. Yeah, I think like that.
Good job. Well done. So here you can refer to a sample answer. So the same idea as you. Let's try and see. I would say that overall manufacturing in Vietnam is increasing. Over the past few decades, the country has become an attractive destination for foreign investment, particularly in manufacturing. Many global corporations have set up factories here because of the affordable labor force and supportive government policies. Although certain traditional sectors like handicrafts might be declining, the production of electronics and high-tech goods is definitely on the rise. Okay, so good job, Nghi. You have most of the ideas here. The last one you can learn. Yeah, so handicrafts, traditional sectors may be declining, but others, especially production of high-tech goods, are on the rise. Okay, let's see number 3. What goods are imported and exported? What do you think? Can
I
you
think
tell?
Vietnam exports products like garments, shoes, seafood, rice, and electronics. But I think especially is fruit because, for example, lychee in Hải Dương province, they can't be grown anywhere else in the world. And on the other hand, I think we import raw materials, cars, and luxury goods like diamonds from another countries. We also import like fruit like blueberry, cherries that we cannot grow that cannot be grown in our country. Yeah.
Well done. You got a lot of ideas there. So let's see what ChatGPT has offered us. Vietnam exports a variety of products. As I mentioned, textiles, electronics, and footwear are some of our main exports. So good job. You got the idea there. Textiles, electronics, and footwear are some of our main exports. We also export agriculture products like rice, coffee, and seafood, which are well known globally. In terms of imports, we bring in machinery, equipment, and raw materials for production. Besides, high-end consumer goods, cars, and petroleum are also imported in large quantities to meet domestic demand. Okay, well then I see most of your answers in here as well. Just pay attention to some very good vocabulary here. Main exports. So what we export the most, our main export, okay, which are well known globally. So you can say lychee in Hải Dương are well known globally, for example. And in terms of imports, yeah. So when you want to change the topic, you can say in terms of something, in terms of imports. We bring in machinery, equipment, and raw materials for production. Besides high-end consumer goods, so instead of luxury, you can say high-end. Yeah, high-end consumer goods, cars, and petroleum are also imported in large quantity to meet domestic demand. So this is also an interesting structure because we need them in our country, so to meet domestic demand. Okay, the last question. How does this compare with imports and exports in the past? So we talked about import and export now, right? What about in the past? How does this compare with imports and exports in the past? What do you think?
I think that compared to the past, both imports and export have increased substantially. In the past, our country mostly exported agricultural products like rice, coffee, fruit, and tea, uh, while we importing simple goods into our country. Uh, However, I can see that today our export include many high technology products and imports. We now buy more like advanced technology and industrial materials, more than just consumer goods, uh, like simple goods.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see. Good job. You got your ideas very clearly expressed. Now let's see what ChatGPT has for us. Compared to the past, Vietnam's trade structure has changed quite a lot. In the past, our exports mainly consist of raw agricultural products, and we relied heavily on imported finished goods. But nowadays, we're exporting more high-value manufactured items like electronics and garments, which show our economy has moved up the value chain. Similarly, we still import machinery and technology. I think the volume of imported consumer goods had increased due to higher living standards. Okay, so most of your ideas are expressed in here as well. You use very good adverbs like have increased significantly, so that's a good thing to do. We also can learn some phrases from the answer. Raw agricultural products. Okay, in the past, our exports mainly consisted of raw agricultural products. So we were mainly an agricultural country. So we export raw products. And we relied heavily on imported finished goods. But nowadays, we're exporting more high-value manufactured items like electronics and garments. Okay, and our economy has moved up the value chain. So you can use these phrases to describe Vietnam economy from the past to the present. Okay, the economy has moved up the value chain. Similarly, we still import machinery and technology. I think the volume of imported consumer goods. So the volume is not the sound, okay, but the volume is the amount. The amount of imported consumer goods had increased due to higher living standards. So there, very useful phrases you can use for your speaking and your writing as well. Okay, thank you, Nghi. I hope you learn, both of us learn things, useful ideas and vocabulary from this activity. Okay, so these questions are about manufacturing, importing, exporting, and past and present. Okay, let's go back to the exercise lead in. Okay, so we've been talking about manufacturing. Let's talk about industry. We have 4 terms here. Can you match them with their definitions, please? Okay, so you have 1 minute for this. Okay, so how are you doing? Have you found the answers to all the 4 terms?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so what do you think is heavy industry?
It is manufacturing large articles or materials such as ships or steel.
Very good, well done. That's it. That's why it's called heavy, right? Large articles or materials. Cottage industry, please.
It's a small business carried out at home.
That's right. That's why it's called a cottage. Service industry.
Tourism, catering, plumbing, etc. also known as the tertiary sector.
Yeah. So this is tertiary.
Tertiary.
That's right. Because tertiary is the 3rd level. Yeah, 3, right? So tertiary. So we have primary. Okay, so what is primary?
Is extracting raw materials such as
Mm.
forestry, fishing, or mining.
That's right. Good job. So we have primary. So the word primary, like, primary school, right? So it's the level 1. Okay, so primary is level 1. When we extract raw materials from the earth, like forestry for the woods and the trees, right? Fishing for seafood and mining for minerals. Okay, so that's primary. We get the raw materials. And then secondary level is where we turn those raw materials into goods and products. Okay, and service industry. So primary, secondary, and service industry is the tertiary sector. It's a third level. So when we have all the infrastructure laid out, all the hotels, the tourist attraction, the restaurants, the houses. So when we have all those things ready from primary and secondary industry, we move on to service industry. We create services, we create holidays and tours and so on to cater for the needs to live and entertain of many people. Okay, so that's why it's called tertiary sector. Tertiary is a third level. Okay, all right, thank you, Nghi. So we've learned some words about industry and manufacturing, imports and exports. Okay, so now let's move on to explore a table for Unit 5. Oh, before we move on, this picture, what level does it show? What industry does it show, please? What do you think? So what is being manufactured in the picture?
I think it's heavy industry.
That's right, it's heavy industry, and maybe this is a ship. It looks like a ship. Okay, thank you very much. Right, so let's move on to a table. Describing information in tables and bar charts. Look at the task 1 practice question and the table. Discuss the questions below. So before we move on, just have a look at the theory first. Most table and bar chart based task 1 questions will ask you either to describe changes over time or compare 2 or more sets of information. Sometimes you might have to do both. Your language the language you use will vary depending on the type of task. So remember when I introduced you to task 1 writing, I told you to pay attention to the time change. If there is time change in the table or the chart, remember to use language to describe changes in data, like increase or decrease or fluctuate and so on. If there is no time change and you have to compare 2 or more sets of information, just focus on comparative language, like the highest, the lowest, and so on. Okay, so let's have a look at the table here. Nghi, I'd like you to read the task. Yeah.
The table gives information about the number of deep mines producing coal in the UK between 1930 and 2015.
That's right. Okay.
Uh,
Okay, yeah, if you want, you can read the rest.
Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant.
Okay, so you see, task 1 question is, this is the important information you will use to write your introduction, okay? And the second part you just read is the same for all task 1. Summarize the information is what you should do for task 1. And how to summarize? Well, you select and report the main features and make comparisons relevant. Okay, so those are the 2 things you need to do in order to summarize the information. Okay, so let's have a look at the table. The number of deep mines producing coal in the UK. Yeah, so you can see these are mine workers here, right? Okay, so let's have a look at the question and the table. What is the general trend in the figures, please? Have a look at the table and tell me what is the general trend in the figures.
I think the general trend in these figures is that the number of mines decreased significantly.
That's right. So the general trend is one of decline or decrease. Good job. Well done. So now look in more detail at the years, please. Which year or which years or time periods would you focus on as the most salient, as the most noticeable? Okay, we're answering question 2.
I think I will focus on the 1930 to 1943, and from 1963 to 1983, and 2003 to 2015.
Thank you very much. And why do you divide the years into those 3 groups? So what is the logic behind your division of the years now?
Because I think the first 3 years, there's kind of too much minors are still working, and in 1963 and 1983 they have in decreased substantially, like about more than 60%. And in 2003 and 2015 there are only a few left.
Thank you very much. I see your logic there. Very good. So remember, these are the number of minds. Okay, right. So now we'll look at the marking criteria for IELTS writing and read the answer to task 1 above and analyze its strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so we'll look at the essay in terms of task achievement, how well the question is answered, including identify the key features. Coherence, cohesion, how the text is organized and how ideas are sequenced and connected together logically to make it easy to follow. Lexical resource, the range and precision of vocabulary used, and grammatical range and accuracy, the range and precision of grammatical structures used. Okay, so our job is now to read the sample answer and analyze the strengths and weaknesses according to the marking criteria. Let me just copy the table down for you. Okay, here is the writing on the left, sorry, on the right, and the table is on the left. Okay, so I'll give you around 10 minutes to read and write and note down any strengths and weaknesses in terms of these 4 criteria of the essay. Okay, so 10 minutes. And after you finish, you can share it in the chat box or just tell me. Okay, so do you understand this task?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so 10 minutes for you to read and analyze the strengths and weaknesses.
I have finished.
Okay, thank you very much. So can you tell me what are some strengths and weaknesses of this sample answer?
I think that the strengths of the essay in task achievement is that the the candidate answered the task like appropriately. They did mention the number of deep coal mines in the UK between 1930 and 2015. Specific times, years are included, and there is a beginning, body paragraph, and the conclusion. As for coherent and cohesion, the ideas, I think that they are organized in a logical way, and there's like a there's many linking verbs like obviously this means nevertheless, and for vocabulary, I think it used a variety of vocabulary, and the writer did avoid repetition. Oh my God.
Repetition.
Repetition, and they try to use like a range of academic terms for grammatical range and accuracy. They use a mix of tense, but mainly past simple and past perfect. And there are some complex structures like this means that in a period of 30 years, the number of mice had almost halved. And for
Almost half. Yes.
how for the weaknesses, I think that in task achievement, the overview is not clearly separated, or is like it stick to the introduction, and for coherence and cohesion, I think that the conclusion is short and underdeveloped. I think there could be a better conclusion for this kind of task. And for lexical resource, I think that some word choices are too informal. Obviously, I have never seen like anyone use obviously in task 1. For grammatical range and accuracy, I think that the sentence we can say that coal mines is not like very academic, because we cannot say that we can say that. Yeah, and that's my evaluation.
Okay, thank you very much. Good job, Nghi. So I agree with most of your analysis, especially the strengths of this essay. Now, for the weaknesses, number 1, the overview going together with the introduction in one paragraph is acceptable in task 1, especially with simple tables or charts like this. So yeah, you can group them in one paragraph, so it's okay. If we separate the introduction and overview if or when it's too complex and it's a bit long, so we can divide them into two paragraphs. So yeah, both options, to write them as one or to write them as 2 paragraphs, are acceptable. So don't worry about that. Okay, that's the first one. And yes, I agree with you. Actually, some discourse markers are used incorrectly. For example, you just point out obviously, or we can say that. Yeah, so I agree with you then. Okay, we will see in the book and see more details, okay? Now I'm just talking about what you shared with me. So yes, you were really keen. Your observation was really keen when you found out the use of obviously was wrong. Okay, and there are some others as well. We'll have a look. Okay, now the conclusion, actually Because the table is quite simple, the conclusion reflects that, and that is an acceptable conclusion for this table. Okay, if there are more information, the conclusion can be a bit longer or have more detail. Okay, now so let us have a look at the textbook's analysis and learn from that to see if any of our points were mentioned or if there's anything else we need to learn. Okay, so let's have a look at the analysis from the textbooks. Okay, so please have a look at the sample answer in number 4 here. And here's the essay for you to refer to. Okay, so strengths of the essay. The description is accurate and there is data to support the description. Overall structure makes sense with logical paragraphing. So you see the overview going together with the introduction and having a conclusion at the end is acceptable and logical. There's a good range of vocabulary, like you said, and yeah, the writer used vocabulary quite varied in a quite varied way to avoid repetition. Decline, disappeared, decreased, fell sharply, dropped, only 5 left, and so on. Past tenses are generally used correctly, yes, and you have pointed out that they are simple past and past perfect. So remember that for task 1 report writing, you mostly use the simple and the perfect tenses. You don't use progressive tense. Okay, and because this table was in the past, the data was recorded in the past, so you use mostly simple past or past perfect. Okay, so once again, remember the verb tenses for task 1 are mostly simple and perfect tenses, and depending on the time frame, you can have past, present, or future, simple or perfect. Okay, now the weakness, some of the cohesion is faulty. So you see there, the weakness is CC. Some of the cohesion is faulty. They are used incorrectly, like obviously that you said, right? Nevertheless, surprisingly, and at last. So those 4 are used incorrectly. Now, a wider range of linkers could be used. For example, when referring to time periods, the writer almost always say in and year to introduce the information. So those are the 2 main weaknesses of this writing. Number 1, obviously, nevertheless, surprisingly, at last are used incorrectly. Number 2, in plus year are used too much and they need to be more varied. Okay? So do you have any questions about the analysis here?
No, I don't.
Okay, so congratulations on your very detailed analysis of this essay. So now we learn from the weaknesses of this sample writing. Let's move on to exercise 5. Okay, let's learn about coherence and cohesion. So coherence and cohesion is a marking criteria in IELTS writing, and it covers how the answer is organized, how well the information is linked together, and whether it makes sense to the reader. So the key aspects of CC, coherence and cohesion, are paragraphing, the correct and varied use of linkers to introduce points in a clear way and to connect ideas logically, allowing the reader to follow it easily. And besides paragraphing and linking, there is the use of referencing words and phrases, such as pronouns, to avoid repetition. So we will look at this 3rd aspect in the later exercise, okay? But for now, please read the feedback from a teacher for exercise 5 on the coherence and cohesion in the answer, in the essay, and choose the linkers from the box to replace the inappropriate linkers 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and if possible, please think of alternative for the linkers as well. All right, so now please do exercise 5. Okay, so please first read the feedback from the teacher in this yellow box here, and then choose the more appropriate linkers for number 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so when you have finished, you can open your microphone and tell me.
I have finished.
Okay, thank you very much. So do you understand the feedback and why these 4 discourse markers are used incorrectly?
Because they are not academic enough.
Okay, that's the first reason. Now, what about obviously? What is wrong with obviously?
Obviously, doesn't fit with task 1. The task? What's one?
And what does it imply? What does obviously imply?
It's implied like a sense that you're making very, very sure, like is just I don't really know.
Okay, have you read the teacher's comment?
It could imply that everyone should know this information.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so the teacher said, obviously, is this the best choice? It could imply that everyone should know this information. So in just one report, you don't do that. You don't imply that people or the reader or here the examiner, you don't imply that the examiner should know this. So you don't use obviously in just one because obviously implies that everything is clear. Everyone should know this, and that is not suitable for a report. Okay, and what's wrong with nevertheless? Can you look in the teacher's comment again and tell me again what is wrong with nevertheless?
It doesn't really show a contrast.
That's right, it's not a contrast. Okay, and what about surprisingly?
This implies knowledge from outside the data set.
Okay, surprisingly. So yeah, so it implies that the huge reduction should be something surprising, and there's something else besides that, besides the number. Okay, and what does it mean by at last?
This implies that you are relieved by this figure.
That's right. So normally at last, it's like in a story, right? When you tell a story, when the hero goes on adventure and the hero battles the monster, and at last here the hero won, right? So at last it's like you are relieved by the end. So it's also used incorrectly. Okay, well done. So now we understand why these four discourse markers are used incorrectly and why we should not do that. We should not use them. So what are the correct or better options? So let's look at obviously.
The clear trend in the figures is that
Okay, so the clear trend in the figure is that there is a decline over the period. Good job. Well done. Now, nevertheless, what should you use instead of nevertheless?
for example,
That's right. For example, in 1943, there was 1,690 miles left. Okay, and surprisingly,
it is striking that
that's right. It is striking that in the 1980s, we see another huge reduction. Okay, so even though it's striking that, okay, also suggests that the number is noticeable. We eliminate the subjectiveness of the language. And it's striking that is more academic and more objective. Okay, objective là khách quan, và nó không có chứa cái suy nghĩ hay là cái cảm xúc chủ quan của người viết nhiều như là objective language, như là surprisingly. Okay, and what can be used instead of at last?
by the end of the period shown in 2015.
That's right. By the end of the period shown in 2015, we see that there are only 5 miles left. Well done. Good job, Nghi. So you have corrected all those discourse markers which were used incorrectly. Okay, just one more thing. Can you say the year again for me? 1913.
1913.
That's right. Remember to pronounce it clearly. 13, because the stress is on the teen. Okay, if you say it quickly or softly, it becomes 30. Okay, when it's 30, it's 30, and 13 is 13. Okay, so pay attention to the teen numbers and pronounce the teen strongly, clearly. Okay, thank you very much. Great. So we have looked at a sample writing with the incorrect use of discourse markers. Now, let's move on to a better sample. Okay, look at this answer by another candidate about the same table. So this, okay, I'll just copy that one down for it. Okay, I'll just copy that down for you to see. Okay, let's look at this answer by another candidate about the same table. The coherence and cohesion is much better in this one. Find discourse markers that perform functions listed on the next page. There are more than one answer for each function. Okay, so why do we have to do this? Well, you can improve your CC score if you can use a variety of discourse markers correctly. For test 1 questions like these, try to make your own list of discourse markers that you can use, classify them according to their function, practice using them when you do example practice questions. So you learn to choose appropriate ones depending on the questions. So we have a list on the next page. Let me just see. Okay, there's a list on the next page. Okay, it's this list. Okay, so I'll just copy the list now, right? So the table is quite simple already. Let's just move on to the list. Okay, so here are some functions of discourse markers. All right, so Nghi, your task is to find discourse markers that perform functions in this list, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there may be one answer, more than one answer for each function. So let's see. To emphasize or exemplify an idea or point you are making. So in fact, to give a specific example, one of the most striking features of this table is, okay, so number 1 has been done for you. Please read the sample and then complete number 2, 3, and 4. All right, so I will give you 10 minutes for this task. Just read the sample and organize the discourse markers according to their functions.
I have finished.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's talk about each function. To provide an overview of the evident tendencies in the data, what do you think?
The overall trend is clearly one of decline.
That's right, good job. Now, to show contrast with previous information.
However, the process of closing down the UK's deep mines had clearly begun.
However, okay, and what else, please? Let me see. To introduce key time periods in the data.
In the 100-year period between 1913 and 2015, by the end of the given time frame in the introduction, these two phrases are in the introduction. And in the early decades of the 20th century, by the middle of the century, are in the body paragraph. And in the conclusion is by the turn of the 21st century.
Okay, well done, Nghi. So you see the discourse markers are used very flexibly there. They don't simply say in 1963 or in year that, in year this. Okay, they use the phrases very flexibly and with great variety. Okay, good job, Nghi. So let me check if there are others we've missed. Okay, so this is exercise 6. Unit 5, writing. Okay, So number 2, you have got it correctly. The overall trend is clearly. So today we learn another phrase. Instead of saying overall, you can say the overall trend is clearly one of decline or increase and so on. Okay, or fluctuation. And contrast is however, and the other ones, good job. You have them all correct. Well done. Okay, so that is focusing on coherence and cohesion and using correct discourse markers. Now, let us move to a bar chart. Okay, so first, once again, this is a table description and the table has time change, okay? So you see a lot of language for describing the trends of the data, decline, thousands of coal mines, and the number had fallen to, and so on. So a lot of, movement and language to describe the changes. However, now we move on to a bar chart. And this bar chart, let's have a look. Does this bar chart has time change?
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Okay, so look at this bar chart, which shows data on the manufacture of passenger cars in 2015 and discuss the questions. Okay, so this bar chart does not have time change, and that affects the language that is used to describe the data in the bar chart. So remember, when there is time change, use a lot of language for movement. Okay, when there is no time change, use language for comparison. All right. So now let's look at this world passenger car production by area. So what do you think would be the most important information for this chart?
I think that China and Europe have the highest proportion in car production.
That's right. Good job. Okay. Any other things you want to mention as important points? Okay, now, so let's move to the regions which you focus on. So okay, a better question would be, how would you organize your answer if you have to divide your body paragraphs into parts? Okay, how would you divide your body paragraphs?
I think I will group the three smallest countries together, and then the Japan, Korea, and North America, and then Europe and Greater China.
So the big ones, the ones that have over 15%, right? Okay, over 15%, and the ones below 15%. Okay, yeah. So I think that would be a logical division of the data. So one body paragraph for the ones over 15% and one body paragraph for the ones below 10%. Yeah, so that's one way. Okay, now I'd like you to look at a sample answer which summarizes and reports the data in exercise 7. So this is a sample answer again, another sample. Now, some discourse markers have been removed. Fill the gaps with the words and phrases from the box. Okay, so this is another sample, but the discourse markers are taken out of the writing. So our task is to look carefully, at the chart, at the table, at the bar chart, and complete it with the words in the box. Okay, so I will give you 9 minutes at most to complete exercise 8.
I finished.
Okay, well done. So you finished exercise very quickly. All right. Okay, so can you just read the whole report for me with the correct discourse markers in place, please?
The bar chart gives the percentage of passenger cars manufactured by different regions of the world. For the purposes of this data set, the world is divided into 7 regions, with the total adding up to 100%. What stands out is that the regions of Greater China and Europe lead the way in terms of the manufacture of passenger cars, with 26% and 25% respectively. By contrast, very few cars are produced in the Middle East and Africa. Just 2% originate from that area. Turning next to Americas, a sharp contrast can be seen between the northern and southern parts of the continent. Whereas North America can boast 19% of the world's passenger car production, South America manufactures just 4% of this type of vehicle. Finally, moving on to Japan and Korea, although they are just two countries rather than a whole region, they account for a sizable proportion of the total at 16%.
Well done. Thank you, Nghi. You got it all correct. So no need to adjust your answers. Great job. Okay, so now we know the flow of the report, right? So how do they group their report? So you see there are 3 body paragraphs, right? So what does body paragraph 1 focus on, and what is the focus of 2 and 3? Can you please just have a look and tell me?
Paragraph 1 is introduction and overview.
And body paragraph, the first body paragraph, or paragraph 2, if you want to say. What is the focus of body paragraph 1?
It is the introduction.
Yes, that's paragraph 1. Okay, so let's move to paragraph 2. What is the focus of paragraph 2?
The Greater China and Europe and the Middle East and Africa.
So what is the logic behind this paragraphing?
They group the largest and the smallest and then all together in separate paragraphs.
That's right. So in body paragraph 1, or you can say paragraph 2. Okay, my naming is, this is introduction and overview. And this is body paragraph 1. This is body paragraph 2. And this is body paragraph 3. Okay, when I say body, it's the body paragraph of the report. Okay, but if you want, I can say paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and paragraph 4. Okay, so paragraph 2 focuses on the greatest and the smallest values. So that's Greater China, Europe, and Middle East and Africa. Good job. So they focus on the 2 largest value and the smallest one. Okay, now what is the focus of paragraph 3?
Paragraph 3 focus on South America and North America.
Okay. So do you see why? Do you see the reason why they group these 2 regions together?
I think that's to compare 2 different regions in America.
That's right. So they do not focus only on the values, the world passenger car production by area. They don't only focus on the percentages, the ones that are high or the ones that are low. They don't only do that. They focus also on the geography or the relationship between this area with one another. So you see the largest and the smallest in paragraph 2, right? And paragraph 3 goes on to report South America and North America, which are 2 regions in the Americas, right? So you can see that is another way to group the data for your report. you can choose to group according to the relationship of the data sets. Okay, so paragraph 3 focuses on the Americas, North and South. Okay, and relating to pronunciation, please remember it's Northern and Southern. Can you say that? Southern.
Saturn.
That's right. It's Southern. Nghe như Southern nhé con ạ. Okay, chúng ta chú ý nhé. So this is Northern.
Northern.
Okay.
Northern.
Right? So the TH here is actually the Northern. Northern. Okay? And Southern. Okay, so you see, even though it's pronounced OU, it's not South, like South, right? It's Southern. Okay, and the TH again is the voice the. Okay, please hear it.
Southern.
Southern.
Okay, can you say that with me? Southern.
Southern.
Okay, so be careful there. Yes, even though the direction is south, right? South. But towards the south or southern is pronounced differently. Okay, so that's northern and southern. All right. Okay, so northern and southern America, northern and southern parts of the continent, sorry. Okay, but the name is South America and North America, and they paraphrased it to northern and southern parts of the continent. So you see, that's also a very interesting paraphrase you can use when you want to vary your language. Okay, finally, paragraph 4. What is the focus of paragraph 4, please?
They focus on Japan and Korea.
Only one region, Japan and Korea, in one paragraph. So yeah, that's okay, because the interesting thing is there are just 2 countries rather than a whole region, and they accounted for a sizable proportion of the total at 16%. So you see, very interesting language there. Okay, so we have looked at the sample essay in terms of discourse markers and in terms of organization and language. Very good use of language. Okay, so for example, although North America can boast 19% of world's passenger car production, so boast 19% of the world's passenger car production, so have a large proportion. Now, South America manufactures just 4% of this type of vehicle. So instead of saying car production, they say this type of vehicle. So very good language use there. Please read it again at home and just note down any interesting language that you find as well. Okay, so that is bar chart without time change. So you see a lot of comparative language. For example, by contrast, although, whereas, and so on. Okay, let me see. Exercise 9, I'd like you to do this at home. Exercise 9 is to find words and phrases from exercise 8 which match the functions. So basically, you are looking at the discourse markers here again and group them into 5 functions, showing contrast, including a new point, emphasize, introduce a statement, indicate something as connected, and so on. Okay, so 9 is for you to do at home. Now we'll do 10 in class. These are extract from sample answers in exercise 6 and exercise 8. What information does each underlined words or phrase allow the writer to avoid repeating? So these are pronouns. So I told you before, right? Coherence and cohesion use paragraphing, linkers, and words, referencing words and phrases like pronouns to connect the ideas together and avoid repetition. So we are looking at referencing words and phrases for exercise 10. All right. So for example, 1, the overall trend is clearly one of decline. So 1 refers to the trend. Okay, so please complete the rest 2, 3, 4, 5 in a similar fashion. You have 4 minutes to do this.
Excuse me, I have a question about exercise 8 before.
Yes.
I see that they didn't mention the South Asia. Is that okay to let that details?
Oh, really? South
Yeah.
Asia? Oh, I see. You have a very keen observation there. Yes, they left out South Asia. I would say include South Asia because this table is not too complicated. The information is very simple and there are only 7 data sets for 7 regions or countries. So yes, you point out a very important point there. They forgot South Asia. And I don't think in the exam you should do this. So no, don't do that, okay? Don't leave out any important details, especially for simple tables, simple charts like this, okay? Imagine a very complex bar chart with like 10 or 20 or even a table with more than 10 rows. So yes, you can leave out some unimportant points and focus on the maximum, the minimum, and the middle parts. But this bar chart is very simple and it has only 7 regions or countries. So don't leave out South Asia. Let me see if you have to mention South Asia. I would suggest you add it into the final paragraph here, because Japan, Korea, and South Asia are all in Asia. So yeah, good job, Nghi. So yes, to answer your question, yes, they did leave out South Asia. And my suggestion is for simple bar charts like this, do not leave out anything. And if you have to add South Asia, add them in the last paragraph because it's in line with Japan and Korea. Okay? Does that answer you?
Yes, it does.
Okay, good job there. Yeah,
Can I
anything
ask one
else?
more question?
Mhm.
I think the sentence with the total adding up to 100%, I am a little bit confused because I don't see any 100% in the paragraph.
Okay, this is an extra calculation. This is what you should do when you plan the writing. Okay, so actually it is not mentioned in the task question on the chart, right? But the writer made a calculation. So for example, 26 plus 25 is 46. 46 plus 19. Let me just open the calculator. 46 plus 19, around roughly, okay? 19 plus 16 plus 8 plus 4 plus 3. Okay, so roughly, yeah, it's just roughly because it's a table. Sorry, it's a bar chart and the numbers are quite approximate. So yeah, adding up is around 100. Yeah. Okay, so this part, total adding up to 100, is your own calculation, the writer's own calculation. Okay, and it isn't mentioned by the task question or the chart. So it might be a bit risky if you add this. Yeah. So this, once again, this is just a sample answer, and they let us know that we can make our own calculation. And if it is obvious, the answer is obvious, you can add that in. You can add this part into your own writing. Okay? So, yeah, the world divided into 7 regions with the total adding up to 100% is all of these figures for the 7 regions adding up to around 100%. Okay, so it's because they made the calculation and it turned out to be 100%. If you don't want to be risky, you can say total adding up to around 100%. Okay? All right, so your question, you don't understand this part? Well, this part is the total of all of the figures in the table here. And they add that to let us know this bar chart is showing the percentages of these 7 regions adding up to 100. So if you have to change the type of chart, you can draw this as a pie chart. Okay, it can be a pie chart with the 7 regions taking up the segment in each area of the pie chart. Okay, đó, Nghi hỏi cô là Nghi chưa hiểu cái tổng nó lại thành 100% đúng không ạ? Thì tóm lại là tất cả các cái số liệu của 7 cái vùng mà họ sản xuất được bao nhiêu phần trăm số ô tô ở trên thế giới đó, thì tổng nó là 100%. Đấy nghĩa là tất cả cái số lượng ô tô trên thế giới là 100%. Đó, thì những cái vùng này Greater China, Europe, North America, Japan, Korea, South Asia, South America, Middle East and Asia, tất cả 7 cái vùng hoặc là nước này họ góp bao nhiêu phần trăm ô tô trong cái số tổng 100% đó. Thì chúng ta có thể thấy là Trung Quốc là nước sản xuất ô tô lớn nhất thế giới với tổng 100% số ô tô trên thế giới, thì trong 100% đấy có 27 hoặc là ở khoảng 27% là ô tô được sản xuất từ Trung Quốc. Tiếp đó là 25% ô tô ở trên thế giới là được sản xuất bởi châu Âu. Và sau đó là Bắc Mỹ với 19%. Nhật Bản và Hàn Quốc cùng góp 16% số ô tô của thế giới. Nam Á thì góp khoảng 89%. Nam Mỹ góp khoảng 4% và Middle East Africa góp khoảng 3,2 hoặc 3%. Ok, thì Nghi hỏi cô là cái số 100% đó là ở đâu ra? Thì thứ nhất là do người viết cộng tổng hết tất cả cái số phần trăm này lại thì mới ra được cái con số khoảng 100%. Như vậy là trên tổng số tất cả ô tô trên thế giới thì thành phần những cái nước sản xuất ô tô là như cái bản đồ này, như cái biểu đồ này họ thể hiện. Ok, Nghi con đã hiểu cái số 100% đấy chưa ạ?
Dạ rồi.
Ok. Đó, thì cô nhắc nhé. Đó, thì nếu mà chat hoặc là bài không nói và nếu con muốn thì con có thể cộng tổng lại để xem có đúng không. Và nếu mà đúng thì chúng ta có thể viết vào trong bài. Còn nếu chúng ta không muốn là risky quá, chúng ta có thể là total adding up to approximately 100%. Còn nếu không chúng ta có thể bỏ ra cũng được, bởi vì trên đề bài và trong cái chat cũng không có cái thông tin nào nói là total adding to 100, thì mình không bắt buộc phải cho vào nhé. Thế còn nếu mà chat họ có ghi chú, đề bài có ghi chú là total adding up to 100 thì mình mới phải ghi vào. Đó. Thế còn tóm lại cái phần mà con hỏi cô mà cô đánh màu vàng đây ạ, là nó là không bắt buộc. Okay. Đó. Thì còn ít phút nữa con ở lại thêm một chút để làm nốt câu 2, 3, 4, 5 của bài 10 nhé. Okay. What information does each underlined word or phrase allow the writer to avoid repeating?
I finished.
Okay, thank you very much. So number 1 is 1 replaces train. Now, the given time frame, please.
100-year period.
Thank you very much. Number 3, of them.
Them are coal mines.
That's right. Good job. Number 4, the number.
Coal mines.
That's right. The UK's deep mines. And this type of vehicle.
Passenger car.
That's right. So this is what we discussed in the previous sample writing. Well done, me. So remember, your language use should be varied like that. So to increase your coherence, cohesion, you can do 3 things. You can divide your writing into logical paragraphs, and you can use discourse markers to link the different paragraphs and the different sentences. And number 3, you can use referencing words and phrases to avoid repetition, like the ones in exercise 10. So you can use 1, the given time frame, them, the number, this, and so on. All right. Okay, so your homework. Firstly, thank you for joining today's lesson. We finished most of Unit 5 writing. So the homework is for you to do exercise 9. Look at the discourse markers in exercise 8 and group them into their functions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's exercise 9. And you will complete one bar chart here. All right. Exercise 9 and 11. Also, Unit 5 writing skills modules. So those are your homework for this lesson. I repeat, exercise 9, 11, page 104, and Unit 5 writing skills modules. Okay, so do you have any question for today's writing lesson?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you very much, Nghi, for your cooperation and your hard work today. Have a nice night, and I will see you again 8 p.m. Saturday. We'll review this unit and do more writing practice. Okay? All right, thank you, Nghi, and see you this Saturday. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.